Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to this right now on iTunes, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. I read the best reviews every week, so long as they are 5 stars. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Cushy Dreams. Without them, I would not be here today. Cushy Dreams, they specialize in extraordinary CBD-rich bud and pre-rolls. I personally love the pre-rolls. They come in these handy-dandy little 5-packs. You can just put it in your purse, throw it in your pocket. You can join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. You can get all the health benefits of CBD without getting high. There's under 0.3% THC in these products, so you're not going to get high, which I really love because I like to relax, but I don't like to relax too much, if you know what I mean. Cushy Dreams has different indica sativa blends like Create, Energy, Hustle, Relax, Dream. So whatever you want to do with your day, Cushy Dreams has you covered. They're constantly doing lab tests to ensure compliance and purity. You can find out all this information on their website, cushydreams.com, K-U-S-H-Y, dreams.com. At the checkout, use promo code CMP to get 20% off plus free shipping. Guys, welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. I am here live from the Gas Digital Studios with the grand poobah of the Guardian Angels. He's omnipotent, he's omniscient, he loves pigeons, and he's running for mayor of New York City. Curtis Sliwa, how are you?
Oh, thank you for that introduction. Let's be very clear. When I'm mayor on January 1st, the pigeons, or as some people refer to them as the flying rats, will be the bird, the official bird on the official flag of the city of New York, because pigeons follow me. I feed pigeons. Hundreds and hundreds of pigeons follow me all over the city. I love pigeons.
Is there a city bird that's not the pigeon?
There is, but you know, these wonks, these Upper East Side folks, you know, were so full of themselves. Let's face it, what's more New York City than a pigeon?
Nothing.
And when
Maybe
I was growing up in Canarsie, Brooklyn, with the Supreme Cousins, my cousin, Vincenz, had pigeons on the roof.
Would he race them?
Yeah,
I've heard people do that.
The Boston Baldies, he had the Homers, and they would bet thousands of dollars. They'd transport the pigeons down to Florida, outside of Miami, Hollandale, and then the pigeons would have to fly back, and then they'd have to time check. My cousin lost most of the time, but when he won, he had to stuff all the moolah shmoolah, the scout-o, right into the wall there so he wouldn't report it to the IRS. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars.
Damn. I wonder, is racing pigeons a rich person's sport or like a rich person's activity? Because the only other girl I knew whose family raced pigeons was loaded, and she had a whole garage like dedicated to the pigeons. And then she ultimately had to live in there after her divorce. But again, it's a long story.
Oh, I'm more interested in hearing that story. Wow.
She's back out there.
That became a pigeon coop after a divorce.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is no, it's generally blue-collar working class, a lot of Italians, a lot of ethnics. And Mike Tyson had a pigeon coop on the roof of his building on Amboy Street in Brownsville. The major movie that focused on pigeons, although well before you were birthed, 1954, when I was birthed, On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando, you know, battling the mob, the longshoremen in Hoboken, and he had a pigeon coop. So pigeon coops are really more synonymous with blue-collar working class folks. Like the family I came from, on my mother's side, Italians, they would eat pigeons. That was considered a delicacy. Pigeon soup.
Really? Just mix it up with a nice sauce or something?
It was a delicacy. And I looked at that and I say, Madonna mai, I'm not eating pigeon. I'm sorry. That's it. Ragiol, that's actually horse meat. Italians eat a lot of horse meat. Oh, absolutely.
I thought it was just a different part of the pig or something.
No, see, they use tricknology on you. But Italians eat more horse meat than anyone in the world. And I defy my own people on that because I want to ban the horse-drawn carriages in Central Park. It's time. We need to save Ukavad, the horses, and replace them with electric carriages. So you see, I interjected.
Rickshaws or something.
Exactly,
yeah
exactly.
I
interjected
exercise.
some of my platform into that discussion.
I love it. It was seamless and so smooth. Curtis, the first thing I want to address, and I'm sure you've been getting so many comments about this, was 2 days ago. You went pretty viral. There was a clip. I guess somebody made a TikTok out of it. You were having a press conference outside of Penn Station. And you were the very thing you were talking about, denouncing the homeless humanitarian crisis. And at one point, a man stepped like right in front of you and I guess was intending to heckle you. Do you want to, in your own words, like explain like what that was like, what you saw?
Sure. Well, first off, let me give the man who's responsible for that props. It's a young man named Luca. He's only 18 years old.
Wow.
Knows TikTok. I'm the only candidate to use TikTok because, all the other candidates, it's controlled by the red Chinese.
That's why I got off TikTok.
But let me tell you something. It's a great forum.
Yeah.
And he's been putting up my videos because if you follow Curtis Sliwa, I go into the neighborhoods where the only Republican they've ever seen is Abraham Lincoln on a $5 bill. So Tompkins Square Park, which is nearby this magnificent studio. Let me first compliment you. I've done 30 years in talk radio at WABC that stood for at times Always Broadcasting in Curtis. It was a third world style studio compared to this. This is top shelf 5-star. And I understand you have another studio.
And Compound Media. Yeah, I do another show called The Wet Spot at a Compound Media. That's a sassy, that's a sexy show. Maybe you can do that one next. But
well,
yeah,
I might get STDs. I don't know.
This place is great. Do you know I could pick my light color, the lights that are in the ceiling? I could pick what color.
Oh, this is incredible. But anyway, so I'm always in the parks, the subways, and the streets. That's who Curtis Sliwa is for 42 years. And I'm dealing with the emotionally disturbed and the homeless people all the time. And I have an affinity for them and they for me. And it goes back to my father, Chester, who was a merchant seaman for 55 years. Back in the 1960s, most of the emotionally disturbed and homeless were congregated where the old CBGBs was, the Bowery. Now you would need a reverse mortgage just to get a little sliver of the Bowery. But back then, it's where the missions and the flop houses were. And men who had alcohol, drug problems were down and out. And my father would take me through there because some of those men were actually former merchant seamen that he knew.
What year was this?
1964, 65.
Wow, and how old were you?
At that time, I was about 10, 11 years old.
Wow.
And he would say to me, Curtis, there by the grace of God, go you or me. This could happen anytime, any place, under any circumstance. And he would tell me the stories of some of the men that he would regale with stories, and they would regale me with stories. And he said, a year ago, he was living at home. This man was a professor. He's now a broken soul. Don't ever laugh at him. Don't ever make fun of him. Always try to help these people. And you got to do selfless service. That's your purpose in life. It's you come in ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And then my mother, Francesca, hardcore Roman Catholic, with the saints. She's doing the rosaries, the Stations of the Cross, the novenas. And she says poverty brings you closer to God. And this is in capitalist America. Poverty brings you closer to God. So between those two messages, I just decided that I really got enjoyment out of doing the kind of things that my father and mother did, which was always helping people and always getting, as Jewish people would say, great nachas, great enjoyment over helping people.
People have told me over and over that I have great knockers.
Nachas.
Oh, okay.
Nachas.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Very good. That was
Similar.
quick. That was quick.
Yeah.
But the whole message there was that we're on this planet to do good, not just for self, but for everyone else. People call me eccentric because sort of like St. Francis of Assisi, who gave up all of his riches to care for the animals. That's what I do.
That's what I would do. Yeah.
I believe in no-kill shelters. I don't want to ever kill a dog, a cat, or another animal again. And I live the life. I have 16 rescue cats.
16 cats?
All of whom would have been euthanized in the animal shelter system in New York City if my wife Nancy hadn't rescued them at the last moment. See, people don't realize when you surrender an animal or they find an animal unwanted in the streets, you are of the impression, most people are, that, they're going to find a little home for this fluffy little furry creature who is like a family member of ours or a friend. No, within 72 hours, if there are no takers, guess what? To the gas chambers they go. So we spend our life rescuing these cats. And that's why I got to get into Gracie Mansion, because I'll be able to keep 60 rescue cats indoors and 12 dogs, pit bull terriers, who would be immediately euthanized because people are afraid of them, in the lawn area of Gracie Mansion, and set an example for others. No-kill shelters. We're not killing any more dogs or cats or animals when I'm mayor of the city of New York.
I like the sound of that. I love dogs. I like pet everyone I see. I'll cross the street just to pet a dog.
Well, that's good.
But I want to hear, so you're doing this, so what kind of a speech or talk were you doing in front of Penn Station a couple days ago? And also, like, What were you thinking when you saw this man come up? Because he came up and stood right in front of you. Did you know right away, oh, this guy might be a little, behind on his medication? I mean, he wasn't wearing a shirt, which is...
No, he was clearly an emotionally disturbed person, a lost soul. But I've known him for 6 years. He's lived in the bowels of Penn Station like a lot of the other lost souls. They're out of sight, out of mind. They go in and out of a psychiatric facility. They're given medication, but naturally, because they're in the streets or they're in the subways or the parks, they're not taking medication. We have progressive elected officials and those running for office who claim, I'm progressive, I'm a humanitarian, I care. Yeah, you really care about these people as they wallow in their defecation and their urine? What kind of human beings are we? What kind of a society are we that we allow this to take place in front of us? And I've befriended all these men and women. They know me on a first-name basis. So he came running in front of this huge press conference because I was talking about the homelessness and the emotionally disturbed in and around Penn Station and how our mayor, de Blasio, was doing jack diddly squat nothing, even though he spent $1.25 billion supposedly on dealing with people with emotional issues through this fake, phony, fraudulent Fugazi program called Thrive.
It's like, where did this money go?
Let's see. Maybe the Cayman Islands, Panama, Switzerland. Day one, our mayor. Hey, issue the subpoenas, put the spreadsheets out, and get the handcuffs, because I'm going to put Bill de Blasio in a place that he wants to destroy, Rikers Island in Punk City protective custody, because he would be so afraid of the inmates. Now, I can speak on that because I've been locked up on Rikers Island. See, that's another thing.
Wow, I love a bad boy.
Well, a bad boy because the police hated me in the early days of the Guardian Angels. I got locked up 76 times in 13 years.
What for?
Oh, you name it.
Everything?
Disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, unlawful assembly, obstruction of government administration, assault and battery, inhaling and exhaling air, as one sergeant told me. It would be better if you were room temperature. This is as he was putting the cuffs on me and losing my paperwork. I was lost on Rikers Island for 7 days. So when these other politicians talk about being incarcerated and being in the Bing in solitary confinement, I got a little belly laugh because I'm the only one who's ever been locked up. I know what it's like on the inside and outside. But when it comes to these hopelessly lost souls roaming about, there are mental care hospitals that could fix what is ailing them. We know how to do it. But we've cut them loose, especially when the lockdown and the pandemic came about. They had to clear all the beds in the state, the municipal hospitals, and the private hospitals. And I understand that. We needed every bed because people were on ventilators. They were dying in ICU and ER. But once we got back to some normalcy, we never tried to go out and recover these lost souls. And they become part of the fabric of our city. They were a threat to themselves and everyone else. So I love this. People will say, Curtis, why do you spend so much time with them? Can't you see them defecating and urinating in the streets? I said, yeah. And where are they supposed to go to the bathroom? By the way, ma'am, where would you go to the bathroom right now?
Not everyone can go to Starbucks, okay?
And not only that, Starbucks doesn't let you go anymore unless you get ripped off paying $5 for a stale cup of hot coffee. Mm-hmm. So where do you go? They don't have public lavatories. These are lost souls, and we dehumanize them. When I'm mayor, I'm prioritizing them. And look, you got a lot of conservatives and Republicans who say to me, what are you talking about? Hey, come on, Curtis. Say, a society that does not take care of its lost souls, its homeless, emotionally disturbed, and its animals, is not a humanitarian society. It is a careless society. And unfortunately, that's what we've become in America in a lot of ways. We care only about ourselves, and we don't want to help those who are in desperate need of help. We want to help those who really don't need help, but just want to profit off of other people's hard work.
Curtis, have you met a lot of these folks that they just refuse help, or they won't take their medication, or they won't stay at the shelter? Like, what percentage would you say are just like fuck it, I'd rather live on the streets than, for whatever reason? Most,
but that's because they're not being treated like humans. So I'll actually sit down and have a long conversation with them, and they'll say, Curtis, aren't you a busy guy? Why are you spending 20 minutes talking to Jamal? Well, because I've known Jamal for 6 years. He's my friend. I have to really get intense with people and say, he's as important to me as anybody else in the city. I'll tell you what, Eric Adams, who is my opponent, he's too busy getting wine-dined and pocket-lined out in the Hamptons, Martha's Vineyard, the big shots of the city, the realtors, the people who have wealth. Go ahead, knock yourself out with them. I'd rather stay with the poor and impoverished people because they're the ones who need our help. I'd rather focus attention on them. Gee, I keep batting your microphone around here.
It's interesting because I think a lot of... How do you feel about the sort of media coverage that you've been getting since you've announced that you're running? Because most people think, oh, isn't it over? Didn't Eric win? You know what I mean? Like so many people that live in the city don't even know that there's other people running. They just figured...
You're so spot on. There was a coronation. Eric Adams was anointed the mayor. We don't have a democracy. This is like Taliban rule. You know, he's going to be the anointed one, the chosen one, the Mashiach, the new face of the Democratic Party. He is going to save the soul of the city. Oh, he's in it for the money. It's all about show me the money. So figure it out. We've had Cuomo, right? Disgraziata. We've had de Blasio, the worst mayor in my lifetime, who has taken a Miley Cyrus wrecking ball and killed this city that I so love. We have Joe Biden, who's like in the throes of dementia now. Oh, women in Afghanistan? Oh, well, it's time to leave. Exactly.
Check my watch.
But he emotes empathy, sympathy. Wow, he's really empathetic and sympathetic to all the Afghans who are loyal to us, and now it's going to be off with their heads. And I'm saying, you want more of this? You want professional politicians? Well, go ahead. You're just going to get more of the same. What do you got to lose by voting for Curtis Sliwa, who's a man of the people? Because where does Curtis Sliwa campaign? Subways, streets, public housing projects, where you never see Eric Adams. In fact, Eric Adams has said when he goes to church every Sunday, of course he goes to church every Sunday, he lies, he carries a gun. And occasionally when he rides the subway, he carries a gun because as a former police officer, he's entitled to do that. I said, Eric Adams, I'm a man of the streets. I was shot 5 times just one block away.
You said you were shot right around the corner from
here. Right on the corner, 7th Street and Avenue B in front of the gin mill across from St. Rita's Church by the Gottis and the Gambinos. And I was lucky to fly out of a moving cab in order to not end up being room temperature. I don't carry a gun. I don't wear bulletproof vests. When I go into the inner city areas where they're gangbangers galore, and they say, let me see your bullet wounds, because, this is a sign of manhood. I said, no.
I kind of do want to see them now, though.
I'll bet you do. But I tell them, let's put that in check. I am not as brave as you think. The idea is not to get shot or shoot somebody. It's to exercise that muscle between both ears, the brain power that you have. It's not about machismo. It's not about carrying a 9mm fully loaded and then popping it into somebody that you hate, you despise, you loathe because you're a gangbanger. So I'm able to kick knowledge with them. And naturally, they're so used to do as I say, but, I do what the hell I want to do. They say, oh, you got a bulletproof vest, right? No. And I show them, no bulletproof vest. You got a carry permit, right? You got shot 5 times. I said I was offered one. I didn't take it. Where's your entourage? You're here by yourself. Are you crazy white boy? I said, crazy I am. White? You got it right. I am Caucasian. And that engages respect because I've been there for over 40 years. So I have that street cred. You can't buy that with millions of dollars. So you can put up all your commercials in the world, talk about how you're a blue-collar working class guy. Yeah, Eric Adams, you were blue-collar when you were a kid. You lost that blue-collar when you became a white-collar in the police department and became a captain. You were no more blue-collar. Curtis Sliwa, if I get buried tomorrow, I'm going to be in Potter's Field in a cardboard box. But if I got to go that way, I gave it everything I got.
I really want to play the clip of the TikTok video for the people who maybe they haven't seen it yet, because I was so moved by this. I was really impressed by exactly how you're explaining. You talked to him like a human being, and you weren't like... Anybody who watches this clip knows, okay, you're not doing it for show. You're not like, oh, look at me talking to this poor man here. You were not responding in a way that you could tell like you were doing it for attention, or you were even kind of away from the microphone, and you were like, hey, do you want to join us? I would love to play that clip just because it really made me tear up. I was like really amazed by how you handled it, and I was just like, I have to talk to this guy. This is amazing.
It's a perfect example. Yo, what's up, man? What's your name? Okay, man. How long you lived here?
6 years.
6 years. 6 years. And where you from originally?
I'm from Bronx, Guyana.
All right, Guyana. Have you ever been hospitalized?
A lot of times.
Like where?
Belgium.
Are you supposed to be on medication?
Yes.
Would you rather be somewhere else than Penn Station? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. We'll take care of you, okay?
I just don't want to take advantage of you guys.
You're not taking advantage. This is our responsibility. I'm running for mayor. I'm going to make sure that you and your other friends down here are taken care of, okay?
Okay, boy.
You want to stand with us while we continue? Yeah, why don't you stand right here with us? Zero tolerance.
Wow. How long were you talking before he came up?
Oh, me, because I suffer from Blasio verbosa. I can talk forever.
I see that.
I was like halfway through my whole spiel, and I saw him running up, and people were running away. Because he was very menacing, but I've dealt with him before, and I knew he was no threat. And I could see he was going through a psychotic disorder there, severe. And as you can see, he emotionally broke down.
Like that. I mean, the emotions had to have been right on the surface.
And if you listen to him, he was from Guyana, very proud of his heritage, proud of his background, spoke very well, had lived in Long Island City for a while until he was without housing. He said, I don't want to take advantage of you. Now, that's coming right from his heart and soul. He doesn't want to take advantage of us. No. We have to help you. You're one of God's children here. And you're not taking advantage of us. You see,
And where did he get that message from, you know?
Everybody passing by. Low self-esteem. Remember it being demonized. People fornicate, mad dog, or they look away as if you're a leper in a leper colony. I remember at the start of the lockdown and pandemic, we went into Penn Station and tended to all the homeless and emotionally disturbed, washed them with alcohol, tended to their wounds because they have open sores. I had no mask, no gloves. People were coming up to me, you're going to spread the virus. I said, excuse me, I remember seeing Mother Teresa and her nuns in Calcutta tending to the lepers. I don't ever remember seeing masks on them and gloves. I'm trying my best here. Would you please let us do our work? And we tended to all of them. Luckily, none of us came down with COVID. But someone had to take risks because all the secular and religious groups fled. And I understand. They were scared. People were dying every day, being put on ventilators. You remember Cuomo, ventilators. God, did he frighten the hell out of everyone.
Let's put him in the nursing home.
Exactly.
Great idea.
All right. So the point was, that's the time to show humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And then I confronted the state and city authorities and said, you've locked up all the bathrooms? Where are these poor souls to go? Even billionaires have to eliminate each
Where
day.
am I going to go? I mean,
Exactly.
I'm in Penn Station a lot. I'm from Long Island. And
Exactly.
When you were talking about the mentally ill people from Long Island, I'm like, a lot of those are my friends.
Right, but you think of it. You go to Europe, they have a bathroom attendant for the women's bathroom, the men's bathroom. They have soap. They have toilet paper. You walk into any of our public lavatories, it's like Dante's Inferno. It's like a gulag.
It's so gross.
It's so, and we claim to be a first world country. And, you know, originally they tried to put up what they call street furniture, where you go in, you put a quarter in, and it actually self-cleans the whole lavatory. And so the next person who comes in has a cleaner. But our politicians tried to rip down the providers of these by, you got to give to our favorite community organization, extortion, shakedown. So we never got to street furniture. You could go to Berlin, where I've been. You could go to Ankara. They have all of this technology,
Wow.
But not in New York City. We consider ourselves the best, not like the rest. We fail our people in so many ways, and we let our politicians get away with it over and over and over. That's not going to happen when I'm mayor. First day, no parties, no raise the roof, and I love electronic dance music. I'm like a whirling dervish. There's no time to party. We got to get out there and help all these people who are in desperate need of help that the politicians talk about, but they do absolutely jack diddly squat nothing for. It's all hollowed rhetoric.
It certainly seems that way. I want to address a couple of these super chats from the fans watching, from Matthew Hammond. Did he see Cuomo abandon his dog when leaving the governor's mansion? Why do these people see animals as disposable? If they do this for animals, then what are they doing to people?
I happen to have schlepped all the way up to the governor's mansion, and I saw Captain in the distance. Captain is a combination Siberian Husky and German Shepherd. Now, he's known to nip all the state troopers, but then again, I can understand that because they were probably doing a stop, question, and search of Captain every day. So Cuomo abandons Captain.
Oh.
Because, he's looking for another female. He's chasing the shot of leg all the time. The guy, he needs to take saltpeter. I don't know if you know what saltpeter is, but years ago they used to give it to men in the army and in prison so it sedates them so that they don't have to try to show women that they're not suffering from erectile dysfunction.
Oh.
Calms them down.
Oh, okay. So it's like the opposite of Viagra.
Yes.
Okay.
Cuomo is an Italian stallion who has no self-control. So the moment he realizes he's going to be on the outside looking in, he has no further need of Captain as a political toy. So I went up to the gates and I told the state trooper, the Smokey the Bear there, I said, I'll take Captain. I rescue dogs all the time. No, you can't take Captain. I said, why not? The governor's giving him up. Just turn him over to me. I'll bring him back to New York City, take good care of him, find him a good home. And then all of a sudden, the last tweet of the spokesperson of the governor, Governor Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, because he is evil, was that Curtis Sliwa will never get Captain.
Really?
Yes. Curtis Sliwa will never. As if that was a fate worse than
you,
death.
Like before they
they hate me and despise me.
Why do they hate you?
Because every day on the radio at WABC, which stood for Always Broadcasting Curtis, I would give the salute to Andrew. Andrew, ascendame, tutti you provino sfacim. And like your father, Mario Faccia Brutta Cuomo, you are. Now, you see, the FCC never knew what I was saying in Italian. If I had said it in English, I'd be knocked off the air. But I hated Andrew Cuomo. And Fredo, his brother, Chris. Fredo.
What a bunch of douchebags. I mean, Chris is more insufferable. It was hard to watch them.
He was my radio partner for a few weeks.
No.
Years ago, they figured, hey,
you worked with him?
He was between jobs as a newscaster. He was a very nice guy, unlike Andrew. But, he had a muscle between both ears. The guy is a stunad, as we would say. Not too bright.
I know that one.
But he was on with me for 2 weeks, and finally management said, Chris, we'd like to make you Curtis's partner, but you never have an opinion. This is talk radio. And he said, but I'm a professional journalist. You watch him on CNN, he's got an opinion about belly button length. He's got an opinion about everything. So, boy, have times changed. But I predict that one day you will see, like a scene in The Godfather, at the compound in the Hamptons where Fredo lives, Chris, there will be his brother Andrew. And everyone will have the weapons. If you're a friend, the few that they have left, you'll be in the compound. If you're a foe, you'll be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, a lot of people deserted him. It was really wild how everyone turned on him. I was like, really? It's taking sexual harassment for this to happen? But
let me give him his last salute. He is a schifosa. I will not explain what schifosa means, but it is something so foul, so disgusting that you would have to build it. You would have to dig a hole all the way to Beijing, China to bury it. Does that give you an idea of what schifosa is?
I'm getting a sense of this.
Yes.
So do we know what happened to Captain? Are they going to give Captain maybe to the woman that was the most molested? I don't know. I'm very curious what's going to happen.
Captain, oh my Captain, I have been locked out. I am not permitted to know where Captain is because they are afraid that I would actually steal him. I would take him. I would rescue him from the grips of the Cuomos. And I would. If I knew where he was, I would bring Captain to my house with the 16 rescue cats, and I would make sure that they were lovey-dovey with each other.
I have another question here from Matthew Hammond. If he becomes mayor, could he look into Cuomo sending COVID-infected people to nursing homes?
Oh, that's the worst, right? And that was like skirted over. I get that he was a perv and that he was... he would put his hands over every female that he would see. I get all that, and that's bad. But is that worse than purposely sending elderly people from a hospital who've been diagnosed with COVID-19 back to a long-term nursing home care unit where you knew it was going to spread like wildfire? Thousands died, and then he tried to cover it up. That's the worst of the many violations he's committed. And the ironic thing is he's protected by qualified immunity. If a cop goes out there, right, and tools somebody up, that's bad. But they want to strip qualified immunity from cops so that you can now personally sue a cop if they
Wow.
cross the line. I get that. But our politicians can rip us off, steal money. They can be pervs. They can be molesters. They can send elderly people to their death. And we got to pay all their legal bills. And if there are any settlements in the many dozens of lawsuits that will be filed against the state on behalf of the victims, we've got to pay it out, not Cuomo. And he's sitting on a war chest of $18 million. He got $5.5 million for that book that nobody read.
Ugh. Used his own employees to help write the book.
Cheapskate, right?
Yeah. I thought that if he was out of office, the settlement money would come from him personally.
No.
No, it
'cause
still
remember,
comes from taxpayers.
This was all done when he was in the executive offices.
Right. Oh, man.
And he used to have a guy who was doing federal time, a guy named Joe Pacoco. I know Joe Pacoco. He would open up his trunk and he had all those Louisville Slugger baseball bats, wood, not aluminum. And if he couldn't convince you to think like the governor and he couldn't bribe you to support the governor, he'd stuff your leg right into your pocket or break your kneecaps. Like the mob. You see, in New York City, you had 6 families of organized crime. I know the 5, right? They've all tried to kill me. So you had the Gambinos, the Genovese, the Colombos, the Bananos, the Lucchese's. And you had the Cuomo family, the 6th family of organized crime. And we let them get away with it for years.
Wow.
Remember, most of his wartime consiglieres are in federal prison for being crooks.
Wow. I'm mostly just upset about the bridge.
Oh,
I want them to call it the Tappan Zee.
the Tappan Zee Bridge. I know, you're married to the Tappan Zee Bridge,
Yeah,
right?
that's my bridge.
Oh, my God. And now it's called the Mario Faccia Brutta Cuomo Bridge.
Yeah, they couldn't fit all of that on the sign, so they had to just call it the Mario Cuomo Bridge. Yeah.
So you're part of that effort to restore the name.
Yeah. Restore the bridge. You know who had a really great idea about what to name the bridges? Larry Sharp, who ran for governor in 2018. He had this brilliant plan. He was like, why don't we just have, say, like a Verizon or a Sprint, like sponsor the bridge? It's like the Verizon bridge, and then they cover all the costs associated. And I was like, that's the smartest idea I've ever heard.
Selling the naming rights.
Yeah.
Like they do on stadiums and everything.
Yeah.
Like Citi Field, right? Which.
Yeah.
Wait a second, wasn't that a company that almost caused us to go bankrupt,
Yeah.
in the economic crash 2012, right?
Yeah. But you know what? It's a great idea.
Oh, new tazza de cafe.
Hey,
I
new
see.
coffee.
Hey, we got a hot cup
Yay.
of coffee here.
I wanted to drink mine out of the Michael Malice mug.
Cup of coffee.
Cup of coffee. I had another fan question. I have no idea what this means. I hope that you do. Or maybe it's an inside joke. Someone from Twitter ask him about the old wooden shampoo.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell is that?
Well, over the years, I told you I was arrested 76 times by police officers who, like I told you, they would arrest me for inhaling and exhaling. Any reason to arrest me and lock me up. Because they thought I was the leader of the Hells Angels, not the Guardian Angels. They would give me wooden shampoos. They would carry batons at that time. Bang, 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 bang.
Oh, that's what it means.
Concrete facials. So I'd be handcuffed right behind my back. And they'd say, hey, Sliwa, you see that curb? I knew what was coming up. Yes, Sarge. Bang! There goes my forehead right on the curb. Well, looks like you got a big lump on your forehead. You never argue with the cops. You never smart aleck them or smart ass them because all you're going to get is more wooden shampoos and concrete facials. And then they give you an attitudinal readjustment. You know what that is? Beat the living daylights out of you. So I've gone through all of that. So that's why when I hear these politicians, I say, really? Come on, if you went into Rikers Island, they'd have to put you in PC. You know what PC stands for? The formal name is protective custody.
Okay.
It's Punk City.
Okay.
It's because you can't survive in general population. Now, luckily, I survived in general population.
Your face looks amazing for as many times as you've been beaten up.
Well, this is the secret. You get hit enough times, it moves the collagen around naturally.
Okay.
So you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars at Gurney's. The
Wow.
problem is the residual damage. You have all the furniture upstairs and rearranged in the wrong room.
Okay.
A lot of people would say, because you've been hit so many times with bricks, bats, pipes, fists, that you're stunad, you're mashuk, you're ubats, you're titched.
You're Cuomo.
No, I'm not a perv.
Okay. Right.
I'm not
right.
a perv, please. I'm not Cuomo. And Cuomo's a pretty boy. When you shake these politician hands, they have no calluses.
They're soft and slimy, a little bit,
soft.
a little damp.
The only calluses they have is on their tush, their tuchus, their dupa, from sitting all day.
Oh, I thought you were going to say from something else. That's fun. No judgment. I'm so curious. I want to know a little bit of the backstory. Like, when did you start the Guardian Angels? How did that come about? What year? I mean, I should have Googled all this before.
No, it's quite all right. It's quite all right. Well, you should Wikipedia it because people are always changing my Wikipedia.
Oh, God.
Where I'm from, who I am. But 1979, I was a night manager of Mickey D's up in the Bronx. Rough place. The Bronx was burning down. 1 million people had fled New York City. It was in worse shape than it is now. It's bad now, but it was worse back then. Abandoned buildings, arson, gangbangers running around with cut-off Lee jackets. They had the rockets of the name of the gangs on their back. And they dominated the city. And we were on the brink of a fiscal collapse, almost going bankrupt because of the corruption. So many of our Hazarai politicians, the pigs that they are, putting their beak in the trough, siphoning off tax dollars and enriching through patronage their buddies. And we were on the brink of collapse. We had no transit police at night. They had removed all the transit police. So I said, hey, you know something? I got to close this restaurant. I'll get my closing crew. I'll conscript them. Basically have Ray Kroc pay for the additional time that we were patrolling the trains. And we started as the Burger Boys on the number 4 train, the Muggers Express.
Was that the worst train?
It was at that time. The number 4 train, the Muggers Express. A lot of folks listening now know, oh, hey, I go to Yankee Stadium. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you should go a little further north than Yankee Stadium, and you'd have an X-Lax attack. You'd have to be wearing Depends. But anyway, the point is, we started patrolling that, and it started getting better. Whereas the rest of the subway system was getting worse. Ed Koch was the mayor at that time. Thank God it was not social networking because he was master of the 30-second soundbite. He called us vigilantes, Hell's Angels, a gang. And this was the time where vigilante movies were the hit on the Deuce, 42nd Street. Charles Bronson in Death Wish 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Buford Pusser in Walking Tall. De Niro in Taxi Driver, that psycho boy. So they all say, oh, yeah, he's like Travis Bickle, Sliwa. He's out of his mind. I was a little bit on the edge. I mean, I could really deuce you up at that time, and you had to because we didn't carry weapons, and I enforced that amongst the Guardian Angels.
Could you if you wanted to?
No, I don't believe in weapons.
Okay.
So people say, oh, he's a tough guy. Yeah, but tough guys don't need to carry weapons. If you want to get young men, because it's young men creating most of the problems, to have low levels of testosterone, thinking that phallic symbol that they carry around the gun is the key to manhood, you got to be out there as a peacemaker. You can't be out there carrying guns too. Now, cops, they need guns. But if you're going to be a volunteer and a peacemaker and you're trying to guide them to become protectors instead of predators, which I've done with a lot of Guardian Angels, you got to be a role model and example. I don't like guns. I understand there's a need for them. But I know the danger that guns bring, especially to a city where people never grew up with guns. They don't know how to manage a gun, handle a gun. It's like a Pandora's box. And they use it just by having shootouts constantly. And normally, they can't even shoot straight. They always end up shooting innocent victims instead of their intended victims.
Right, because there's no shooting ranges up here.
Well, not only that, but let's face it, there's a mystique about guns. You grow up in the rural areas of the country, there are guns throughout the house because God forbid you had a home invasion. You're going to call the sheriff. You're going to call Andy Griffin in Mayberry RFD. Are you kidding? It would take them a month of Sundays to get there. You got to deal with it yourself. But in our country, it's got to be one rule for everyone. No. It should be different rules in an urban area, suburban area, and rural area because we have to understand people live different kinds of lives and have different kinds of needs.
So it was through being a guardian angel you learned how to talk to people and kind of, dissolve tension and maybe break up fights, or were people intimidated by you? I mean, how many of you guys were there?
At one time in New York City alone, there were 1,000. We're in 13 countries now, 130 cities, so we're global. But sure, we can be intimidating when we have to be. But the idea is that you don't use brutal force. You don't beat people up. If you have to arrest somebody or detain somebody, you do it in a way in which you're not ganging up on the person. You're not putting boots to the back of their head. You're showing people in the immediate area you're there as a peacemaker, not as a troublemaker. But sometimes you have to use force. Look, if somebody pulls out a knife and wants to slice you up like sushi, you got no choice, but you got to take him down, and he's got to be sucking concrete with a little pain compliance to understand that he's crossed the line.
Yeah, I was getting so mad over the lockdowns, like more so last year, just to see people getting attacked. Like oftentimes it was an Asian person getting attacked on the subway. And I would be watching these videos and I'm like, 3 dudes could break this apart. 3 dudes could take this one guy down, and nobody was doing anything. Everybody just had their phones out, they're recording. And I'm like, why is nobody trying to break any of this up?
Well, because people have been told, oh, you don't want to get involved. You could be arrested. You could be sued. Because remember, for every one human being, there are 10 lawyers. And they're out there and they're practicing their martial art every day. I sue. And they have sued people who have been good Samaritans. So everybody hears of those horror stories. And it's drummed into you. Don't take a chance. Nobody's going to care about you. Whereas I believe in the reverse. If you have it within your means, you have to physically intervene. Now, if it's not within your ability or means, you got to do something. You can't just be prostate. You can't just sit idly by. And nowadays, because everybody has a cell phone, they figure, okay, at least I'm filming it, which is good, because at least we know who the person is. But nowadays, how many times are these people even caught? And by the way, they start waving at the camera like, yo, man, it's going to be on 6 o'clock news, yeah.
Yeah, is that an iPhone 12?
That's right, I'm going to be international. This is going to make me famous. Yeah, it does, infamous. But there's very few repercussions and there are very few consequences for your actions nowadays. But sure, if all you could do is film the person or take a photograph of the person, that helps. But not to the point where, hey, I got to upload it, man. Look how many hits I got. It's like, there's a reason you're taking the film. There's a reason you're taking the photo. It's not just to become
It's for likes.
An influencer. You're going to be the next person who's doing America's Most Wanted, right? You're auditioning for that.
So how did the berets start? How did you pick red? How did you get everybody an outfit? I don't know. Maybe this is just like my female concerns.
Yeah, well, back then, and please never call it a tam.
Okay.
Please never call it
What
a tam.
is a tam?
A tam. That's like with a little beanie on top.
Okay.
That's a tam. And don't call it a Kangol, because, a Kangol looks a little bit like this. This is an old-fashioned Boy Scout beret. All I did was take the patches off. And because it came in plentiful supply in different sizes, I was able to get it from an Army-Navy store. It was just because you could see it at a great distance. And the subways back then were very dark and dank. So they would knock out all the old GE light bulbs. It's not like you have now fluorescent light.
Wow.
It was GE light bulbs. And that was so that it would become a mugger's delight. And people would run to the red beret. That's how you know it's a guardian angel. You look at the cops now. They're styling and profiling. They never wear their caps. I look at the cops and I say, hey, put your freaking cap on. How the hell would I know that you're a cop at the other end of the platform?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. They're just wearing
they're
dark.
always on their cell phones, their iPhones, sexting, because we know they're not texting back to the precinct. Oh, headquarters, this microphone is running away from me. But you notice the cops, they always have their heads buried in their iPhones, smartphones. And I say to them, oh, the precinct is alerting you? Come on, what are you, updating your profile
Will
here?
You say that to them? Do you talk to the cops?
Oh, hell yeah. They know me. I'm in their face sometimes, especially the rookies, because they really don't know who I am. The old-timers know, hey, watch, Sliwa's around. But the rookies, they say, how's it your business? I say, it's my tax dollar. What the hell are you doing on your smartphone, iPhone? I know you're not communicating with Central Command here. I know you're updating your social network profile.
It's like if you saw your coworker, your boss, somebody who worked at your job, if they were always on their phone, you would say something.
Yeah, I would think they were Anthony Weiner. The former congressman who was always sexting and texting.
Oh, yeah.
He was my radio partner, too, for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, I took a chance. The management said, come on, you can't have Anthony. Well, get him in. He's a good talk show host. He had a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
But in between breaks, the guy could not put his cell phone down.
Now we know what he was doing.
Right, so they asked me, how was he? I said, he's a good talk show host. He'd be a good partner, but... man, there's something going on his iPhone, his smartphone. He can't put it down.
He's like, what's the Wi-Fi password? I got to send these dick pics off.
Exactly. But no, the guy was a very good talk show host. He just had that weak spot.
Weak spot. We all have our
Hidden demons.
Achilles heels.
That's right, hidden demons.
So you decided to go for the red. You went with the hat because it was plentiful. How would it work? Would somebody be like, hey, would you recruit people or would people come to you?
No, we recruit specifically guys and gals who looked like they were on the cusp of getting into trouble or had been in trouble. We'd have referrals, mothers coming to us, hey, I got a son or daughter here, they're out of control. Although there were some mothers who were trying to string me up from the nearest telephone pole. How dare you? My daughter, my son, my precious little baby, you're going to get him killed. I said, ma'am, believe it or not, they're safer being a guardian angel than just hanging out, minding their own business and getting swept up into trouble. And the reason for the red, and this is the number one reason, my last name is Sliwa. It's Polish. Some think it's Ukrainian, it's Russian, it means plum. I was the Grand Marshal of the Pulaski Day Parade, right? Nobody knows about it. Fifth Avenue, one of the biggest
So you know
parades.
how many light bulbs, how many people it takes to screw in a light bulb. God damn it.
This is the funny one, though.
up.
I'm coming out of St. Patrick's Cathedral. I did not get struck by lightning. I got the tux and the tails on in my red beret, and this tourist bus pulls up from San Diego, and I have guardian angels there. Curtis, we didn't know that the Polish people have a parade honoring Roman Polanski. I said, that pedophile on a pedestal? I said, no, it's Pulaski.
Oh, God.
It's Kosciuszko, not Kosciuszko. Kosciuszko, not the mustard, not the bridge. They had no idea. So, having grown up, part of me, Polish-American on my father's side, he would take me to the annual Pulaski Day Parade, and I would see the red and white flag in the distance, and you could spot that like miles away. I said, that's a good combination, the red and the white. So believe it or not, that's how I came up with the color combination. I know from a fashionista point of view, it's not going to sort of tickle your fashion creativity, but it came about from, believe it or not, the annual Pulaski Day Parade that I saw as a youngster.
I like it. It looks sharp. I mean, I personally look better in jewel tones like blues, greens, but I like it. I like the red. It makes sense. You see it right away.
It's in your face. Right?
Yeah. And I didn't know that you were recruiting kind of, guys and gals that were maybe about to get into trouble themselves or about to...
Guys, gals, gays and lesbians. Back then, that was... You didn't do that. Transgenders, didn't matter. You want to make a difference? Hey, you're welcome in. Although it could be very rough for them because society was not as open-minded. I don't know if you know this. I performed a gay wedding in the South Bronx, 1976.
Wow.
In the projects. And I love it. People say, he's a homophobe. I say...
Why do people think that?
Well, they just assume it because, they have stereotypes about everything in life. They want to sort of box you into a stereotype. I had a closer named Ralphie, great crew member. And guys would come in from gangs, the Savage Skulls, Savage Nomads, and they'd be in Spanish cursing them out. Puñeta, chota puñeta, maricón, all these, I'll knock your nose right down your throat. I didn't tolerate any of that. People say, whoa, what's wrong with you? That was back in the 70s. This was the thing to do. And one day Ralphie comes up to me, says, hey, I'm getting married to my friend, Vinny. Would you say a few words at our ceremony? I said, where is it? The Soundview Projects. I said, that's Black Spade territory. Yeah. I said, yeah, I'm coming. Because I don't think they're going to tolerate this.
Was that a gang?
Hell yeah. Bad gang. And they were not, let's say they were not open-minded to gay or lesbian weddings.
They were not woke.
Exactly. And at that time, I was a disco duck. I used to love to go to after-hours clubs. So you'd run across all kinds of people, gays, lesbians, straights. It didn't matter. People would love to club into the wee hours in the morning. So I performed the ceremony. My fellow assistant manager, Don Chin, was there, who had been a former member of the Savage Skulls. And the Black Spades were outside. And I went outside with Don, and I said, hey, why don't you just watch and see how this is like normal? These are regular people. Stop making fun of them. Believe it or not, they actually listened. They didn't make a lot of noise out. I think they were stunned.
Yeah.
And then I ended up doing the robot, dancing to the wee hours of the morning. Because, oh, man, I was like soul-trained Don Cornelius.
Wow.
I could do the robot better than any white boy in America. Now, see, people don't know that about me, right?
Now they do.
Oh. And that's what I love. Democrats, liberals, oh, he's a homophobe, he's a racist, he's a sexist, he's a misogynist. I said, where do you get this stuff from? People are people. Judge them for who they are. Yeah, I happen to be a Republican. I happen to be an independent candidate for mayor. But I can go into neighborhoods, again, where the only Republican they've ever seen is Abraham Lincoln on a $5 bill. And I get respect. I get street cred because I've delved into all these areas. And all these labels they want to put on you doesn't fit Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah, it's so easy to label people, and that's what they do. They discredit you as a person so that nobody can listen to the points you're making and the policies you want to bring in and the good that you are going to do the city. When did you decide to run for mayor, and what made you want to run?
Well, I saw the city being wrecked by this Bill de Blasio. He's the part-time mayor, the dope from Park Slope, who smokes Maui Wowie and Hindu Kush, going puff, puff, pass on the back porch of Gracie Mansion every night. And, he wakes up like 12 noon every day. I mean,
he's like a stand-up comic.
Right, but an average person, think of it. If you came to work late twice within a week, you'd be fired, right? Mm-hmm. Not the mayor.
I'd have to be like, oh, it was a gyno, but that wouldn't last.
Exactly. But this guy can wake up 12 noon, go back to sleep 10 o'clock at night. Maybe it's actually better for the city. The less time he spends being mayor, the less problems that we have. But this was the occasion. My wife, Nancy, was going on the kill list on the computer. There's a kill list. I explained it earlier. That within 72 hours, if you don't claim a cat or a dog from Animal Care and Control, the shelters for animals in the city of New York, they'll euthanize them. And there was this kitten who had all kinds of medical issues, serious. But my wife, she knows how to nurture them back. She says, Curtis, I'm going to go retrieve this kitten before they kill it. It's like 12 noon on a Saturday. I said, which shelter are you going to? She said, Linden Boulevard in Brooklyn. I said, oh, no, you're not going by yourself. They just had a shootout there. In the Pink Houses, which is on Linden Boulevard the day before. I'll go with you. We're halfway there. It's like 3 o'clock, right? They close at 5. The guy calls up. It's like a scene out of Goodfellas. Calls up Nancy. Don't bother coming. What do you mean? Well, what's the problem? There's nothing you could do about it. We euthanized him.
Oh, no.
She said, why? Why? Well, we're closing early.
Oh, God.
So she pulls the van over, the Guardian Angel Animal Protection van. She starts banging on the dashboard, cursing like I've never heard a curse before, crying. So I realized something horrible happened. And then she elicited to me, I said, Nancy, I'm going to run to become mayor of the city of New York. We're going to have no-kill shelters. I swear on my parents' graves. Now, a lot of people say, come on. Yes, my wife. At that moment, I put everything on the line. I had to leave my job at WABC Radio. I have payments, child support, 80% of my net. Whew, it's a lot, but it's my problem. But I put everything on the line, and I said, I got to do that. Now, a lot of people said, you did it for animals? I said, no, schmuck putz. I did it because there are so many other people like my wife out there who are so emotionally tied to the fate of our family members. They were our family members, our furry little friends. That it's the only way this is going to change if I become mayor of the city. You didn't do it because of crime. I said, look, I lived through crime before, right? And I'm not, I don't look forward to any of the candidates who were running as being able to resolve this crime problem. I know I could do a better job. But that was the motivation. That was the emotion. On that day, at that moment, I made the decision. I was going to put everything on the line.
You felt called. Yeah.
No doubt about it. And, when you look at these animals on the kill list, you say, my God, why are they going to kill that animal? What's wrong? Is it sick? Is it in pain? I can understand that. No, because nobody claimed it within 72 hours. And then I just want to break into those shelters and rescue all those animals.
Aww. Yeah. You have my vote. We should do like a Cats for Curtis campaign. Like, I don't know, shoot a commercial.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I give catnip to all the cats out there, right?
Catnip Curtis.
Blunts to all the hipsters and millennials, catnip to all the cats, and big marrow-filled bones to all the dogs. Because, I'm not talking about the bone you smoke. I'm talking about the marrow-filled bones.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I got another question here from George with an S. George's? Crap. This is some sort of a name I can't pronounce. George Habib. Hey, Curtis, mad respect for how you consoled that man. I want to ask, as a New York Republican, what do you think about Trump?
Well, my opponent, Fernando Mateo, in the primary spent $2 million because he got matching funds. I didn't have two nickels to rub together. And his advertisement was, Curtis is no Republican. True. And he's a never Trumper. True. I did not vote for Trump either time. I didn't vote for Hillary. I didn't vote for Biden. I voted for independent candidates. The last one, Brock Pierce, who was on the Independence Party line. Oh, did I get blowback from Republicans? What? You didn't vote for Trump? I said, no. I had a love-hate relationship with Donald Trump over 30 years. But I wasn't going to vote for him for president. When he would get into those Twitter frenzies, I wanted to put Chinese finger cuffs on him. He'd be commenting about things that had nothing to do with the president.
Trap. Yeah.
Right, manic depressive. That's the problem. But Joe Biden, Hillary Rodham Clinton, so I went the independent route because I've always been independent. I used to be the New York State Reform Party chairman until Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo wiped out all third parties because he wanted to kill the Working Families Party, but guess what? He only strengthened them. So I'm an odd bird when it comes to being a Republican. The money people hate me. Isn't this ironic? Eric Adams, the Democrat, right? The guy who claims he's blue collar, loved by the rich and the wealthy and Wall Street. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, hated by the establishment, but loved by the peeps in the subways and the projects.
Wow.
This has never occurred in the history of politics.
It sounds backwards. Yeah.
Well, no, because it's who I am. And they don't like it. Hey, I got elected as a Republican candidate. So apparently there are a lot of blue-collar, working-class Republicans out there who overlook the fact that I'm a never-Trumper. Remember, no never-Trumper has won an election.
Wow.
No, when you're a never-Trumper in the Republican Party, let's face it, think Cheney, right? You're dead on arrival. You're persona non grata. I survived that because people said, no, we know Curtis. 42 years, he's been out there. He's been busting his shoes. He's the real deal. He's not going to candy coat things or say, well, really? I bet. No, he didn't vote for Donald Trump, and he admits it. He didn't have to say that, right? How do you know who I voted for?
I don't know. Yeah.
I took selfies. I broke the law. You know, you're not supposed. Imagine this. There's a law that says you can't take a selfie of the scanned paper ballot, that you fill out.
Wow. I mean, you're in there with it. Come on.
So the first time, 2016, I voted for myself because I said, that's it. I'm not voting for Hillary or Trump. Second time, Brock Pierce, and I took selfies because people said, come on, how do we know you did that? That's because I have documentary evidence.
I love it. Was it mostly Trump's tweets that turned you off, or, even when he was running? When did you realize, I'm not going to vote for this guy?
No, it's like every day I was getting a vertigo, from all the tweets. And the things that he was commenting on that I said, why are you getting involved in that? You got really important stuff to deal with here. I like some of the stuff he did taking on Red China, the menace of Red China. I liked the fact that he allowed for experimental drugs, which saved my life, that didn't require 10-year FDA approval because I've had stage 4 prostate cancer, ileitis, colitis, chronic Crohn's disease that I had, as you know, shot 5 times with hollow point bullets. So a lot of those experimental drugs actually saved my life. I like the fact that he got people out of prison who were incarcerated for years and years and years. But then he would go into these tirades about other things. Donald, chill out, man. It's like, relax. Yeah. It's almost like you need a mood elevator. I wanted to introduce him to my electronic dance music because that's my mood elevator. You need a mood elevator. Because, man, he'd want to go to war against everyone, including his own family sometimes, his own friends.
Yeah. I want to know what you think, because on the way, I was walking from Grand Central to the studio, and I'm seeing now all these restaurants putting up, got to have your vaccine to get in, and I'm looking in all these restaurants, and not only are none of them full, they're not even busy. What are your thoughts on the mandates? How do you feel like it's going to help bring business back to New York, or do you feel
let's talk first about those psychedelic shacks. That's where it's at outside. You could land a B-52 bomber and actually park it in these Quonset huts that some of these restaurants have built.
The outdoor.
Remember, the idea was that it would be open air so that COVID-19 would not infect your lungs. Now it's all enclosed. They got the burners, the heaters. Yeah. So what the hell are you doing out in the street? Take those down. But you're right. They got the signs, you got to prove that you're vaccinated. You better wear your damn mask.
It's not welcoming. It's not.
First off, who are the vaccine police? These men and women who own these bars and restaurants have been on the cusp of bankruptcy. Now you want them to be vaccine cops, mask cops. The police already went on record. We're not getting involved. So imagine a group of 4 people come. Right? They want to come to your restaurant. 3 of them are carded so they can show you the card. The other one left their card at home.
Yeah, what are you
now
gonna
there's
do?
going to be a fight outside, right? I don't have to tell you. It can get quite belligerent. Why are you doing this? How ridiculous is this? And what derivative of COVID-19 will be the next wave that all of a sudden is fear, fright, hysteria? Look, I encourage people to get the vaccines. You want to bribe them like de Blasio's doing, give them $100, good. Private business,
A Krispy Kreme.
Right, good. You can bribe, okay, I want more people vaccinated. But if they have a medical reason they can't be vaccinated, what, they got to be on the outside
Right.
looking in?
Or religious, yeah. Or
Religious.
they have natural immunity. Yeah.
Or they just don't trust the government. Gee whiz, there are a lot of reasons not to trust the government. Relax. Just let's see if it all starts to kick in. But I'm going to trust Fauci, who's all over the map, who's seen, what does he smoke? How many packs of cigarettes a day?
They must have stunted his growth. I had no idea. He's like 5 feet tall.
5 feet tall, but he's also, the polyps.
Oh, yeah.
You know this guy is smoking those unfiltered Chesterfields all day long. It's like, remember Barack Obama, the Marlboro Reds? Marlboro Reds, the chest breakers. And here it is, Fauci's giving us advice. Meantime, he's sneaking off, 2 cigarettes at the same time. The sanctimonious hypocrites. But I don't want to see politicians lecturing us. Like de Blasio, he doesn't even know how to run government. He's going to tell us about our health. So the other day he goes, just get 1 shot now. You don't need 2. And you can go to a restaurant right away.
Wow.
I said, wait a second. Hey, I thought it takes 2 weeks for the vaccine to even start kicking in.
Yeah.
Who made you a health authority? But you notice they always want to bogart the health authorities. The politicians like Cuomo, I know it all. Trump, I know it all. Biden, I know it all. De Blasio, they know nothing about nothing. Put a doctor up there. Let's listen to the doctor. It's like, hey, I don't like that doctor. I go to a different doctor. Choice.
Right. And doctors and science can be compromised depending on who is
Which
paying.
pharmaceutical company is bankrolling
Right,
now?
right.
Let's face it, we've learned a lot about that, right? Like oxycodone. Yeah, hey, Curtis. I was on oxycodone for 3 years because of my chronic Crohn's disease. And then we find out, it's all owned by a private company. I think it was, Lilly or something like that. They were whining, dining, and pocket lining doctors to prescribe oxys, right? So every time a doctor gives me advice, it's good, but I'd like to compare the advice. I'm the educated consumer. Let me make the ultimate choice.
Yeah. You should be allowed to ask questions.
Yeah. God forbid.
Yeah.
Who are you, Curtis? You're a high school dropout. What do you know? Look, I went to Georgetown Medical School. Yeah, but meantime, you may be under the influence of some big pharma company that has bankrolled you, pal. So let me do my own due diligence, my own research, and make up my own mind.
Yeah. Makes sense. Who is your most favorite mayor of New York City and who is your least favorite?
Oh, least favorite, you know that, Comrade Bill de Blasio. My favorite, Rudy Giuliani. By the way, it was endorsed me.
Oh.
Now, I got to bifurcate this because when Rudy was mayor, he had a situation to deal with. There were 5,000 shootings a year, most of them unsolved, 2,000 murders. He took what was the crime capital of America, the murder capital of America, made it the safest large city in America. Then he got involved with Trump. Dominion, Smartmatic, all that. I didn't agree with that. And I had conversations with Rudy, who's endorsed me. I said, Rudy, because I used to be on before Rudy on WABC. I'd be on for 3 hours. He was on an hour. And I politely disagreed with him. But you can have disagreements.
Yeah.
And yet still agree on certain other things because America has become so divided that if all of a sudden Rudy's with Trump, Curtis, you should have nothing to do with him. No. I know Rudy. I worked side by side with him. I saw the great job that he did, especially with 9/11 coming up. Wow. He was our president. Let's face it, do you know where Bush was? I was reading fairy tales to those kids in Florida. Then he disappeared. Cheney, I don't know if he was waterboarding people in Gitmo at that point, but he was MIA. Rudy was the only one we could turn to. I'll never forget all the funerals he went to, and he went to all of them. Firefighters, police officers who died, civilians who died, the other people who never get any respect, the private security guards who never left their posts in both towers. They have never got the recognition that they're due because they were considered rent-a-cops. Well, guess what? They got crushed to smithereens like everybody else. And then the men and women, we saw them in the piles, and I was in the piles from time to time at night with the Guardian Angels to relieve the cops and firefighters. But they brought all the debris to Fresh Kills, the landfill in Staten Island, because they were trying to find the particuli, DNA, so that they could give families closure. So men and women were down in hazmat suits with little rakes going through on this landfill with methane gas percolating up. Many of them died horrible deaths as a result of getting sick. They've gone unrecognized. So I know what I saw. The heroism of that time. And Rudy was there for everybody. He was he kept us all together.
Yeah, and also everybody that helped out too. Like my dad was a Teamster at the time, and he was called. He went down there with a bunch of guys, helping clear through all the stuff, clean up. Yeah.
Christine Todd Whitlis, the former governor of New Jersey, the EPA chiefess for Bush 43. Oh, you could breathe the air. There are no toxins. You don't need respirators. You don't need masks. You don't need any of that.
Tell that to everyone's chronic cough. Yeah.
Right. What a death sentence she imposed on people. What a disgraziata she is. She's at some horse farm there in the, a real wasp there in the middle of New Jersey there, counting all of her money. Boy, what a disservice she did to so many men and women and so many families who are still losing family members as a result of cancers and other medical problems that are developing as a result of being exposed to those toxins.
Absolutely. We got another question here for you, Curtis, from, I can't read this. Wow, I need Bing Hamza. Curtis, as a young Afro-Puerto Rican who moved out of the Bronx and lives in Pine Bush, New York, I always appreciated the Guardian Angels on the trains and helping the elderly in the 80s. I donated to your campaign. God bless.
Thank you. Pine Bush. Wow, that's Leave It to Beaverland. Father Knows Best, Little House on the Prairie. In fact, the theme of my campaign is Improve, Don't Move. I realize a lot of people, they want to move. I tell them at night, you have your gumadas, right? The guys especially, they giggle. I say to their wives, don't worry about it. I don't mean that kind of gumada.
The gumada is the girlfriend on the side, right?
The home slice on the side.
Yeah, I learned that.
Your gumadas is Florida. It's talking to you on the computer at night. Boca Raton, the sixth borough of the city of New York.
Yeah.
Georgia. Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Tennessee.
Yep.
People have 1 foot out the door. And I understand, but I said, no. You got to fight for what you know is right. There's the old Italian tradition that my grandfather, Fidel Bianchino, taught me. He said, Guagnan, fatali fata tu. If the fig tree dies during the winter because we haven't covered it with enough tar paper, then we move. If the fig tree lives, we stay. I say, yeah, but Grandpa, the neighborhood's changing. We don't move. I say to myself, improve, don't move. We got to, because in order to save the city from everyone who wants to destroy it, like AOC, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I mean, this woman, I'm like Jenny on the block. No, you're not Jennifer Lopez. You never lived in the Bronx. You are up there in trendy part of Westchester there.
Yep.
She tries to get these, these hood creds. It's not hood. Never lived in the ghetto. Never lived in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. And yet she acts like she's a friend of the people, and yet she lives a privileged life like so many of them who really have no street cred. Look, some of her ideas are relative. I don't discount them all. But she acts as if she is the only authority.
Yeah, we had Tina Forte on the show. She's running against AOC.
Oh.
Have you met her?
I think in passing,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys would love each other. You would get along great.
Gotta support anyone who wants to take out AOC all out crazy.
Yeah.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Tina is another fellow real New Yorker. You can tell not only by the way she talks, but just everything about her. She's really passionate. I had her on the show a couple weeks ago. So I'll be donating to her campaign as well.
This is good. You don't just talk about them. You don't just lend them your microphone. You give them what is the ointment for politics, money, without which a lot of people can't survive.
We need that ointment. Another question here from Amuro Trey. Will he reverse the mask mandate if he wins?
Yes, absolutely, because this is crazy. Look at all the people it's impacting. I've got 3 sons. Anthony, who's in high school, Carter, who's in junior high school, and Hunter, who's in elementary school, all 3 in public school. A year and a half And when I do my visitation, hey, how come you're playing Fortnite, Roblox? Yeah, I thought you're supposed to be paying attention to your teacher. Well, it's a different teacher. They need to get back in the classroom. The parochial schools, the religious schools, they had open school. Kids were in the classes. The teachers were there. We got to get them in. Now, push come to shove, if it means my kid has to wear a mask in order to get back to school, I get it. I don't like it. I don't want it. I want them back in school as quickly as possible, because if it was up to me, I'd redshirt them. I'd leave them all back. We've robbed them of a year and a half of their education. And guess what? There's no social promotion in the real world. They've lost a year and a half of socializing, of education, of living the kind of life we all had the opportunity. But I would absolutely do that unless we were gripped by an ominous pandemic where people were once again, ventilators. Okay, I'm malleable. I know I might have to adjust a little bit. But right now, the fear, fright, hysteria, and hype, and we're just crushing the life out of people, causing more people to want to leave, more businesses to close, and the only ones who survive are the real wealthy. Obviously are going to take advantage of prices dropping and buying up property and investing. Come on, we've seen this before. There's a historical cycle here. The middle class always gets screwed. Doesn't matter if you're tending to the poor and the impoverished, or you're tending to the wealthy and rich. The people who always get screwed are the blue-collar working class. They get squeezed by all sides.
Definitely getting squeezed out right now. Gosh, I think I asked you everything I wanted to ask you. I want to make sure, check through the chat, make sure I didn't miss any questions.
Wait a second. Other people not wanting to chat with me?
Other people do want to chat. Can't believe that.
Come on, chat
Chris,
away.
Where can people learn more? And where can people send ointment to you? Send money.
Shekels, moolah, scaro.
Yeah, knockers. What'd you call it before? Where can I send my knockers?
You go to CurtisSliwaForMayor.com. CurtisSliwaForMayor.com. And a lot of the positions I take, you're going to say, whoa, I can't quite gauge this guy. 1 minute, he seems like he's a little progressive. Next minute, a libertarian. Next minute, a conservative, depending on the issue. I've got a town hall meeting coming up with the Yang Gang.
Oh.
We're talking universal basic income. And a lot of people say, wait, you're Republican conservative. You can't talk. You can't cross that margin. No, I say, excuse me, it was Milton Friedman, the father of modern day capitalism, who actually came up with the idea of universal basic income. We just saw Elon Musk talk about how through artificial intelligence and robotics, that like half the jobs are going to be wiped off the face of the earth because menial labor will not be needed. I said, I want to see, because if you're a conservative or libertarian, you believe that if UBI works, universal basic income, you won't need this bureaucracy, social services bureaucracy, welfare and everything that comes with it. If you're a moderate, a progressive, a liberal, you think it's humanitarian. It can be all of that. But how are we ever going to know if we don't have an experiment? An experiment. God forbid we actually meet halfway and we have forensic discussion and debate. No, it's our way or the highway. And see, that's the problem in our society now, is that there's no discussion across political lines. You either stay in your lane or you're traditor. You're Judas.
It seems like people have a hard time putting you in a box.
No. The only box I'll be put in, and many people have tried already, as you know, the Jadruls, the knuckle draggers, the hitmen, they failed twice to kill me. So maybe the third time is the charm. You never know. This could be my last public appearance.
No.
Do you realize how many hits you'll get then? I'll get hit, but how many hits you'll get as a result of that?
Oh, boy, Curtis. Oh, wow. One more question here from George's Habib. I know I'm saying your name wrong. Ask him about when he almost got whacked. The S is silent. French name. Oh, Georges. Whatever. Sorry.
Georgette. Or George.
I'm such a Long Islander. You almost got whacked? I feel like you almost got whacked a bunch of times.
Right here, 1 block away.
Oh, my goodness.
Let me take you back.
What was it over?
It was over Gotti Sr., John Gotti Sr., the head of organized crime, Italian Cosa Nostra. So it was back when John Gotti Sr. was on trial for the last time, and Sammy the Bull Gravano ate the Parmesan cheese and ratted him out. And then they had Memorex tapes of John Gotti Sr. actually saying, whack this guy, whack that guy. So he was going away triple life without parole. What I didn't realize at the time is when he's in federal lockup before each day going to court, he had an AM radio. He's listening to me in the morning on WABC. I'm doing mob talk. I'm using all my Italian phraseology. I'm cursing. I'm giving him the malucchia, the evil eye. And I'm talking about all my experiences with organized crime, all the things that I saw that they did. He is fumigating, right? Dropping the F-bomb. So he calls up his son, John Gotti Jr., who was running the Gambino crime family in his absence. And he says, you better shut this guy up. Look at what you do. So April of 1992, they send the international bat-wielding crew. It was led by an Irish guy named McLaughlin, Kaplan, the Jewish guy, and Ruggiero, the Italian guy. See, they were very diverse in organized crime.
Wow.
And so right on the corner of Avenue A and St. Mark's, I'm going to WABC in the morning. And they tooled me up with baseball bats. They hit me 32 times.
Oh, God.
They broke
You counted?
Excuse me?
Were you counting?
Pretty much. In fact, I actually saw the autograph, Joe DiMaggio, on one of the Louisville Sluggers that was coming right from my head.
Wow.
I ran across the street, jumping over cars. They're following me. I'm climbing up the fence that David Dinkins put up to keep the anarchists and the demonstrators out because there was a curfew in the park, Tompkins Square Park. Thank God he put that fence up. Because it hit me so many times, I was definitely going to be a vegetable if I survived. I flipped over the fence. They're screaming at me. Meantime, there's a Rastafarian guy who had just been dealing marijuana to this white boy. They were like frozen, I said, hey, man, help me. I'm bleeding. My head's busted. They were like, they didn't know what to do. Finally, the cops come, and they have the key, and they open up the gate, and they say, well, I guess you're not Superman, huh? They take me to Beth Israel. They tell me you got a concussion, you got a broken elbow, you're going to be here at least a week or more. I said, a week or more? I'm checking myself out. You can't do that. That's dangerous. Let me worry about that. I go right back on the air that morning, and I talk about the killing that John Gotti Jr. was responsible for at the Silver Fox Disco in South Ozone Park, where he gutted out a guy 46 times. I gave the date, times, places, and who was there. And the father now goes absolutely apoplectic, John Gotti Sr., because he's listening to this. He calls up his son, the underboss of the Gambino family. He said, the guy implicated you in a murder. There's no statute of limitation. The feds listen to him. The cops, all the Gavones listen to him. Hey, you don't whack him now, you're going to be ending up doing triple life without parole. So John Gotti Jr. goes, yeah. So he goes to the Corazzo family in Canarsie, where I grew up. I hated them. They hated me. We had fights all the time. And he says, my father wants you to put a hit on Sliwa. And they said, with pleasure. We hate that guy. And so they get their hitman, Michael Leonardi. They steal a yellow cab late at night, and they jerry-rig it at Carmine Agnello's Chop Shop, which was the biggest salvage yard right beyond the right field fence in Shea Stadium in Flushing, Queens. And they jerry-rig it. They cut the handles of the inside of the cab out, and they put it back with crazy glue, because the Corazzos are telling Michael Leonardi, Sliwa's going to fight, man. Shoot him in the head. He ain't going to fight. Don't shoot him in the head. Telling you, don't shoot Sliwa in the head because he's going to resist. Don't tell me my job. I'm a professional hitman. So they have Joey D'Angelo at the wheel. They steal this cab 9 days in a row. They're driving around Tompkins Square Park hoping that I'm going to flag a cab because I'm in my red beret, my red sateen jacket. I'm defying the mob who's saying, we're going to kill you. We're going to kill you. In fact, they sent me deathbed lilies, white lilies, which is the sign that you're going to be dead.
That's like my favorite flower.
Yeah, well, that's deathbed lilies.
Oh, no.
And then dead fish wrapped up in the New York Times. That was the message. But I was defiant. So finally I get into the back of a cab just about when they were going to give up for the 9th time. And Leonardi is in front, under the dashboard, unbeknownst to me. And Joey D'Angelo is the driver. It's 1992. There's potholes galore. I thought we were doing hydroponics, with Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. And I said, Madison Square Garden, quick, I'm late. No problem, Curtis. I said, oh, my God. I got a cab driver who understands English, who wasn't tending goats outside of Amman, Jordan 3 days before, who doesn't have a hack license. This is great. I can read the newspapers in the back seat, the sports pages. This is great. And he turned right instead of left. I said, hey, I thought you said you knew. And the next thing I know, I'm looking at this 38 special aimed right at my head. So what do you think Michael Leonardi tries to do? Shoot me in the head. He missed. And then I'm fighting for the gun. He's shooting me in my lower extremities. I'm bleeding out. I reach for the door, right? Because I'm going to take a chance diving into incoming traffic. The Carrazos knew me. He's going to try to break out. I pull the door open, and guess what comes in my hand? The door handle. Bang! Again, right through my legs. So I'm like feeling like life is like ebbing out. And I realized I got one chance only to get out of here. I got my radio, my walkie-talkie. I say, Code Red, Angel 1, Code Red. That's my code name. It happened that KG Oda was at the headquarters, a degenerate smoker of cigarettes who was supposed to be outside, abiding by the rules, but decided to sneak a smoke inside. He hears the radio, and all of a sudden, Curtis, what's going on? Joey D'Angelo, the driver, the mob guy, thinks it's the cops.
Oh, man.
So he's like driving like all crazy going down Avenue B. I get shot another time as I dive out the window. I get shot in the back, pushed out. So they figure I'm dead. I'm a speed bump. And who comes running out of the gin mill on 7th Street across from St. Rita's on Avenue B? The Hells Angels. That was their favorite bar. They turned me over. Hey, Curtis, don't die on us. And then they come, finally. The ambulance. They cut me open. They cut off all my clothes. They get a bicycle pump. They're putting it in a body bag, trying to suppress the bleeding. I'm screaming. It was like, it felt like a baby grand piano on my chest. We hit every pothole on the way to Bellevue. God. My blood is slushing in the body bag. Oh, no. I finally get wheeled in. Dr. Leon Pachter. Guess where he was from? The head surgeon. Canarsie, just like the hitman, Iannotti, who was hired by the Carrazos to whack me. And they took like 8.5 hours. I ended up waking up in the ICU intensive care 2 days later. And I have tubes in every orifice of my body where I had been dead from all the toxins. And guess who I wake up to? Out of that anesthesia that I was taking, I see Ed Koch, who had been my nemesis. He's to my left. I thought I had died and gone to hell without an asbestos suit. He's smiling at me. I look at Cardinal O'Connor, who has the extreme-unction vestments, which is the death right vestments, because they thought I might have died. And then there was my wife at the time, Lisa, and she's looking at me like, we have a life insurance policy. You're probably worth more dead than alive. And I survived. But it took 6 years to indict John Gotti Jr., and others in the attempt to whack me out. 4 federal trials. Gotti Jr. skated. Iannotti's doing 20 years. And D'Angelo became a cooperating witness. And that's how I survived. But I got attacked by them twice.
Holy cow. What a story.
Real. That's the way New York was. Fear City in 1992.
Yeah.
Remember, Rudy wasn't mayor yet. So organized crime ran everything, and street gangs ran everything, because David Dinkins, nice guy, but he lost complete control of the city.
You've seen it all. One more question from Ambient Space Noise. Really hope you win. New York deserves someone who actually cares about its people. Love you, Chrissy. P.S. I found Blu-ray Home Alone 3 as an extra on the laser. Well, that's... Talking about a laser disc.
That's ancillary to this, right?
He's just happy that you're running.
Well, now, let me tell you, I hate to bust everybody's bubble out there. They could be happy that I'm running. But if we don't get the Curtis Sliwa voters out to vote, it's all for naught. I could have all these great ideas, but we have to mobilize people. Because remember, people are in this induced impression that Eric Adams is already the mayor. He's gone through the coronation.
People just think he's already in.
Oh, he's the new face of the Democratic Party. Oh, my God. I've seen the old face, and I'm not happy with the new face. It's the Blasio 2.0. So, ladies and gentlemen, scrape the barnacles off your backside, get your rear in gear, and get out the Curtis Sliwa vote. And you got to bust the bubble of all those people who think I'm that traditional Republican that you can put in a box. I am certainly not. And I'm going to take it to Eric Adams. There's 2 months left in the campaign, and I'm going all out, all out.
When's Election Day?
November 2nd. Okay. There'll be early voting, about 10 days of early voting. There'll be absentee voting. So there are a lot of different ways to vote. But if you don't vote, you can't afterwards say, well, I didn't know. I thought he was already mayor. Hey, guess what? He's not mayor. This is a democracy. There's going to actually be an election.
I love it. And one more time, where can people find out more about you?
CurtisSliwaForMayor.com. CurtisSliwaForMayor.com. You got to go on TikTok, Curtis Sliwa for Mayor, and you can see all these videos. Instagram, the whole 9 yards. And you can see I am not your conventional politician, and I go to places where politicians would never dare be seen because they're too afraid.
Like maybe one of my comedy shows. Curtis, thank you so much for coming on the show. I, again, am so moved by how you handled that man outside of Penn Station. And I don't know any other politician that would have given him the time of day, let alone like give him a hug and talk to him like a human being. So appreciate you coming on. Oh, gosh. One more question from Theo Chino. Who is Curtis's public advocate candidate?
My public advocate candidate. You know, I haven't even given it any thought. I've got a Republican who's running on the line. There's a conservative, a guy I've known for years, Tony Herbert. Right now, I'm just focused on the mayoral campaign. The Republican candidate, she's a good woman. So let the voters decide. You know, obviously, I'm going to support my party's choice. But it's not Jumaane Williams. I can assure you that. It's not Jumaane Williams. By the way, little side note about Jumaane Williams, who hates cops and wants no prisons. Do you know where Jumaane Williams, the public advocate, lives?
Oh, God, where?
He lives in the active garrison of the military base at Fort Hamilton. When you drive in every night, you have to show your identification. Now, Jumaane doesn't want anybody to show identification. But again, it's typical. Do as I say, but not as I do. What the hell, Jumaane, are you living on a military base? Who are you afraid of? How come you're not living amongst the peeps?
It's a very good question.
And plus, he has armed security with him 24 hours a day, NYPD. How come they haven't been defunded? So typical of politicians. So typical.
Yeah. You're not a politician, that's for sure. You're a real person.
I am. The first time I kissed a baby and shook her hand, you know how everybody's, I'm not a politician. Yes, you are. The first time you kissed a baby and shook somebody's hand running for office, you're a politician. I'm just an unconventional politician.
Yeah. As long as you're not sniffing the babies, you're okay in my book. One more question from Nate A. Is Sliwa prepared for the debates? Will it happen?
Oh, hell yes. I'm entitled to 2 debates. And I'm going to ask the question that mainstream media will not ask the anointed one, Eric Adams. Tell us about your love affair with screwy Louis Farrakhan. All the years that you followed Louis Farrakhan, the number one anti-Semite hater of white people, gays, lesbians, and Jews in America. How come you had that love affair? Mainstream media doesn't want to ask him. You know, you look at Keith Ellison, who ran for Congress in Minneapolis. He was always asked that question because he had followed Louis Farrakhan. He ran for state attorney general, won, but he was asked that question. Why is it our media refuses to ask him about that? One intrepid reporter did. He was coming out of NBC, and all you saw is Eric Adams putting his back to him going, oh, no, here we go. Here we go. Answer the freaking question, Eric Adams. Why did you have this? You had Louis Farrakhan almost on a pedestal. It was almost a form of idolatry. I don't believe he follows Louis Farrakhan now, but you got to explain that because I've been asked to explain. How come you were married so many times? How come you did this? How come you did that? All fair, but why not ask him that question for 5 years? He was like, hey, yeah, man, Louis Farrakhan. He's like, yeah, he's the man. Really?
It's a good question.
Tell us why.
Interesting. So it sounds like you're ready. Guys, check out sliwafornewyork.com and follow him on TikTok, follow him on Twitter, everywhere else on social media. Curtis, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, my pleasure anytime. And by the way, this studio is top shelf,
nice.
5-star.
This is Gas Digital, baby.
Yeah. Wait, the other studio. How come I wasn't invited to the other studio?
Oh, well, you can come to the other studio.
Like I said, I'm afraid that I might have gotten a letter from the Department of Health about STD checks if I went to that studio.
This was fun.
Anytime.
We'll have to do it again sometime, Curtis.
Anytime.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody in the chat. Thanks for the questions. You guys are great as always. Until next time. Bye.